Good evening, everyone. My name is Rafael Windsor.
My name is Danielle Tong.
My name is Priyanka.
This lecture explores fan activism and K-pop. As a preface, I would like to briefly cover soft power, which is a tactic used by South Korea to shape its global image through the export of culture rather than using hard power and coercion. In this instance, I will continue to analyze fan activism within the K-pop sphere. What can be noted is the importance of soft power as it becomes vital to the flow of fandom networks. As these two components work in tandem, one could be seen as how fan activism serves as a vehicle for soft power, which in turn amplifies the nation's cultural influence on a global scale. Within the purview of fandom, the idol's image is being reinforced by soft power, and the increase in fan engagement becomes a sort of side effect, byproduct of that amplification, which then leads to a sense of responsibility to upkeep their idol's image. In this way, we can come to the understanding that the fandom becomes a transformative network, one that functions like a grassroots network, and in turn, this reinforces the image of idol culture and by association, the image of the nation itself. An indirect benefit of this happens at the government level, where it contributes to cultural diplomacy without any government intervention. So in this sense, we now have a more positive image of South Korea that aligns with their soft power goals as they inadvertently benefit from the idol's fandom practices. There was a study done by Mika Plug from the University of London. What I found is something parallel to my aforementioned analysis, which is best expressed through this quote. Through the positive reception of K-pop, the intended soft power goals may have caused unintended outcomes such as fans utilizing K-pop as a resource for political activism. What can be seen in this piece is how the fandom network in various regions localize the K-pop mechanics to reinforce the efforts within their nation, like Chile using hashtag activism to use the rapid and interconnected nature of their fandom on a contested digital space in order to shed light on their situation. This becomes the most interesting takeaway as it expresses the organic nature of the process, where the ability of the fandom to connect based on interest and values becomes a driver for their activist efforts. Yet there's a bit of a caveat, as this begs the question, what happens when this potentially stigmatizes the fandom? It's something that can be easily overlooked when trying to understand the dynamics behind the networks, where the generalization and labeling of them at the surface level can do damage to the causes they support. It remains true is the ability of this fandom to extend the reach of South Korea's soft power.
Pink. Recently, we've been hearing more and more news about climate change. We're not experts and we're not fully aware of all the issues, but we do care about our planet and we want to learn more. We learned that our world is changing. Every year, we're seeing more extreme weather, things like heat waves, droughts, and flooding.
수많은 이유 중 하나는 바로 지구가 자연 서식지를 잃고 있고 많은 자연 환경들이 빠른 속도로 사라지고 있기 때문이라고 합니다.
These activist fandom networks are also present in other groups besides the well-known BTS efforts. To briefly explore these ideas, I will cover Blackpink, a South Korean girl group formed by YG Entertainment, and their fandom Blink. They do differ from BTS in the form of activism they engage in, but it falls under the same umbrella. Blackpink mainly focuses on climate change awareness and environmental causes. This direction has accredited them with many accomplishments and recognition for their efforts within the climate change ecosystem, such as the MBE given to them by Prince Charles and UN recognition, where they became the advocates for the United Nations COP26 and UN SDGs in 2020. As they spread awareness for these issues, what can be noted is the movement from their fandom, where they reinforce their idol's action by spreading awareness through the digital networks as they can organize donation projects focused on climate relief efforts and disaster victims. In this way, the Blink's collective efforts create tangible form of support that backs the idol's causes. The aforementioned also remains true in this example where they inadvertently extends South Korea's soft power and reinforces their image through an effort made by their cultural export.
Now I'll be discussing the plight of performative fan activism. Specifically, I will be talking about how a lot of fans seem to engage with fan activism in a more superficial way and in a surface level way where they don't genuinely have an understanding of the issue at hand and a proper understanding of what exactly it is that they are protesting for. So specifically, we discussed in lecture this idea of thought-like methods which often that form of activism is dismissed by critics, even though sometimes it can demonstrate significant cultural impact and have tangential influence on actual political change. It can also be seen as a minoritarian strategy for political engagement that actively challenges Western power structures and deconstructs the boundary. And despite this, we've seen that fan activism is oftentimes still overlooked. I would actually like to argue, though, that there is a proper argument to be made for the fact that many fans do engage in activism in a rather public way. Because fans have the tendency to form digital collectives and digital tribes, individuals in the collective feel compelled to believe in activism without actually being as personally convicted and as personally involved with what they are actually focused. So a couple of key case studies where we actually see this are the Congo genocide and the Black Lives Matter protest. Specifically with the Congo genocide, we see how K-pop stan Twitter users were engaging in a lot of reposting and retweeting of tweets that said, "Speak up about Congo," and "Stand with Congo." However, we didn't really see any true forms of tangential action through this activity. We didn't see fans actually writing links for donations, or putting away information, web pages, or other ways for other fans to actually engage with this form of activism. And specifically, what this here is that activism becomes more about being a part of a collective and feeling as if one is a part of a group effort or a group movement, and not really about wanting to enact true change. Similarly, we saw during the peak of the Black Lives Matter protest that many fans engaged in a collective effort to drown hashtag White Out Wednesday tweets by fanning fan cams. The only thing is, though, with this kind of mass spamming and digital tribal activism, there's no real individual engagement and there's no real individual learning and education that is happening. All the fans are engaging in the exact same type of activism, which actually shifts the focus of the activism from the movement at hand to the fact that K-pop fans are at the forefront. Lastly, I would like to discuss a deeper analysis of why exactly this is the case and whether it is actually valid to apply the label of activism to this. So we often see that the application of the term bot happens en masse to fan activism, and the individual fans are reduced down to a bot-like identity. We have to consider whether that is actually a valid criticism or if it's just another way to police activism. And the formative activism label falls under the same umbrella. However, I again am reiterating my argument, substantiating it by saying that even in forms of non-digital activism, such as boycotting, whether it be boycotting a brand like Starbucks or boycotting idols and entire groups in the face of problematic behavior, we often see fans engage in the boycott temporarily, maybe a week or so, and then immediately forget about it afterwards when they are no longer feeling compelled to engage with the collective and identify as part of the digital tribe of fandom. We see a great example of this with Somi, the whole case with Somi boycotting Starbucks, where she claimed to understand the role it played with the Palestinian, with what's happening in Palestine right now. But fans actually noticed her condoning and drinking their products just very shortly after. So we can see again how there's this kind of there's this kind of pressure that the fans feel to engage with the collective. There's no genuine understanding on a mass level with certain kinds of practices.
Thanks, Priyanka. And now I'd kind of like to branch over into fan activism and fan labor specifically. As we know, the cultural aspects of fan activism are pretty clear. There's a culture of donation, a neo-tribal formation, specifically online especially, and oftentimes it's anti-hegemonic protesting. And we can see really the effects of what K-pop idols' speeches have when they give messages of self-acceptance, and that actually translates into vocalization against racism and discrimination. And so you can kind of see in the Black Lives Matter movement, for instance, with BTS Army fundraising, and also sort of like what Priyanka was talking about with the bot-like type of fan activism in signing up for so many seats at Trump's rally. Next slide, please. However, I studied Thailand's 2020 student uprising, and I actually think this example defies that accusation of bot-like behavior from K-pop activism. So yes, online activism can appear bot-like and even follow a lot of the norms for K-pop fan activism, such as donation making, anti-hegemonic protesting. But I really think this example shows how this Thai students drew from K-pop infrastructure, so online activism and online chat rooms, and that actually catalyzed their movement, which I believe was displaying genuine conviction for their activism, given the kind of very weighty consequences and their continued efforts. Next slide, please. So this slide really covers kind of an overview of what happened. Basically, the students were protesting and demanding reform of the monarchy and wanting an end to the power of a military government. And you can see on the right an example of fan labor where students created happy birthday signs for their different K-pop idols, and they bought ad space on local bus drivers' buses and posted these. And the connection to this fan labor and activism was that in their protests, like on the streets, railway operators halted train services to stop those protests. But yeah, shows the oh, thank you. Yeah, this example here shows more fan labor in support of that activism. We'll just play a few seconds.
เราไม่ได้มาเล่นสนุกเรามาเพื่อเราเรียกร้องแต่เราใส่เพิ่มเติมความเอนเตอร์เทนเข้าไปแค่นั้นเอง
Thank you. And so from this video, you can see how dancers, K-pop dancers and fans from Thailand who are used to performing on the stage are now performing on the streets in effort to protest. And this actually comes at the penalty of a potential 15 years in prison based on an article that I linked in the bibliography of Thailand's laws. And so, yeah, this really shows genuine connection with activism as a catalyst from K-pop platforms and K-pop fandom.
Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. We appreciate you listening in on our lecture. Here is our bibliography.